So it's been almost a week since this movie came out, and since then, so many of us have had so many opinions about this movie. Some of us had an issue with the language, some of us loved it, and some of us were even more smart to come up with so many more theories and explanations to this awesome movie. And I have come across some crazy explanations, so here are my top 5 theories or explanations for the movie Churuli. So hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, then hi, this is The Storyteller. Here we review stories in the form of doodling, and if that's something that excites you, then do not forget to hit the subscribe button down below. Like I said, this movie really blew the internet last week, and today we're going to be talking about the explanations and theories of Churuli. On that note, guys, if you have not seen the movie, spoiler alert, this video is completely filled with spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, do watch it and come back to see if you guys had any of these theories in your mind when you watched it. So assuming that there are loops that keeps happening with respect to time, let's get into the theories. Theory 1. This one is related to the Rishi and the Marden story that we see at the start of the movie. And this is my personal conclusion after watching the movie. So I felt Vinay Ford, who plays Shajivan, is the Marden in this story. There are multiple scenes in this movie that gives us the hint of that. Like for example, the old lady chasing Vinay saying that she's seen him before. Or in that one scene where Karyachan refers to Vinay as George and Vinay actually hears him. It's also interesting because one of the first things that Joy says to Chamberlain Vinod is that half the crimes were pinned upon him and he hasn't done them. So could it be that Vinay Ford was the one who did it all along and they were just trying to pin it on Sobin? Not to mention in the last scene where Sobin and Vinay exchange seats. And that's what led to this conclusion for me. So let's assume that all of this happens in a particular time loop. So Vinay Ford does come to the Churuli land. He doesn't remember what he's done before, but he keeps doing the same things. And like the Rishi Marden story goes, Anthony becomes the Rishi and Vinay Ford becomes the Marden, accompanying him, not letting him know that Marden is with Anthony himself. If this is the scenario, then we can assume that all the things that he saw inside the Kappachetan's house or the flying fire that he sees are all figments of his imagination or things that's just made to confuse us. But in this theory, the biggest flaw is that there are a lot of unanswered questions. There are a lot of unanswered questions, and to be honest, this is a theory that almost a lot of us did believe for the first many days after the movie got over. But I still think it's a very basic theory and it doesn't answer all the questions. So coming to theory 2. And since we have space, we'll do theory 3 also on the same page. Okay, theory 2. This theory is a little slightly advanced and complex. And it's completely focused on the time and the loop aspect. Okay? So I'm not sure how many years a particular loop is. So it could be 1 year or 2 years or 3 years or X number of years. And as each loop happens or it gets over, it refreshes everything. It resets everything with respect to time and the memories of the people in that loop. So in this theory, let's assume that Joy or whoever Marden is the supreme power, the one who controls everything in the loop. And for him or his helpers are the Kappachetan, the healer lady and Karyachan. Now Anthony and Shajivan comes to the land of Churuli. Shajivan ends up looking into the Kappachetan's house and he ends up seeing these machine sort of things inside the house. Honestly, even in the movie, we get to see that this becomes a starting point or the beginning of change in Vinay Ford's character. It brings a change in him and he starts doing the crimes one by one, which of course we see leads to a series of events, and after Chamberlain falls down, they're taken to the healer. And once Chamberlain gets better, then Jojo comes and then they're taken to Joy, and in the end they're all sucked into the moon. Now this is what the story was, right? We also see glimpses of a vertical, straight white line of light, post which the movie ends. Now we know how it all begins and ends, and let's assume that the straight white line of light or being sucked into the moon legit means that they're being sucked into the time loop. And they vanish or disappear and a new loop begins from here, refreshing and resetting everything. Now, what's interesting here is Karyachan mentioned something. Okay, I'm not going to do theory 3 on this paper. Okay, cutting all of that out, yeah. So, Karyachan at the start says something to Shajivan that there were 2 policemen who came sometime back to catch a criminal, Vasu. Now, what if many loops back, two policemen had come to catch the criminal Saubin, who was known as Vasu at that time, because as we know, every loop people have new names. And in the loop that we are seeing, he's known as Joy. Karyachan also mentions about these two policemen when they drop Anthony and Shajivan at the healer's place. It's funny because he mentions about these policemen correct at the start and at the end, the two pivotal points of where the loop actually starts. And that's Karyachan's role in this loop. So, quite literally, these police officers come in every loop to catch the Marden, but they're sucked into the loop and they never come out. More like they're stuck in a never-ending world. Now, to push this theory a little bit more further, you guys remember those two alien-looking people in the forest? What if these are the old police officers that sucked into the loop and they're trying to reach out to the people of this loop, but nobody can ever figure it out because it's a new loop? So when Shajivan and the others were in the forest, they were actually seeing the police officers from the previous loop, but they could not interact with him, as quite literally they are stuck in that loop. Maybe these old police officers are trying to seek for help. This could also be the reason why Shajivan sees the flying fire. Maybe that fire was shot by these police officers as a cry for help, hoping that Shajivan would understand something and would save them from that time loop, but he ends up getting sucked into it too. The old police officers might have felt that Shajivan would understand because nobody else quite sees this except Shajivan. And that's the end of theory 2. Now, I did tell you this was a slightly complicated theory. Okay, moving on to theory 3. Okay, this is the fun theory because this is the one where we talk about the aliens and the sci-fi aspect of this movie. Woohoo! When Anthony and Shajivan goes to have breakfast as soon as they reach the Churuli land, there is a man who's reading the newspaper who reads out loud that 2 people were abducted by aliens. Now, of course, this is something that we all overlook but becomes a major clue point for the entire theory. Let's assume that Churuli is a mystical land. It is an alien land and controlled by aliens. So maybe those 2 aliens that we see in the forest, or the aliens that we see in different parts of the movie, they are the ones who ruled that land. And they put all the people under that land into some sort of spell. Okay? So every single villager of that area, they're under the spell of the aliens. And as the loop resets every time, they end up having new names, they have new memories, they have no track of time. So they're all lost as we are in that loop. Now, Anthony and Shajivan comes to Churuli because they get a call. An anonymous call saying that Joy is hiding in Churuli. We also know from Karyachan that Kapachatan was the guy who leaked out to the police that Vasu is in hiding. So maybe Kapachatan is one of the main leaders of the aliens who is luring in police into the town. The entire village who is under the spell of the aliens act their characters in this entire loop. The series of events keeps happening and finally they are sucked into the moon to the aliens. So if in that loop Kapachatan had called the police to lure them into getting Vasu, in this loop he calls the policemen to lure them in to getting Joy. Both which ways, they end up coming to Churuli. The series of events happen as per the act of the villagers, and finally they get sucked to the moon, and the villagers are part of this plan without even knowing that they're a part of this plan. Kapachatan's house could be the headquarters where all the machines, time machine sort of things are seen in, and the healer lady's house can be the place where it all resets again or pushes towards the end of that loop. So in this way also, the Kapachatan and the healer lady has a huge role to play. Just that this time it's for the aliens. Okay, now coming to theory 4, which I feel is one of the most brilliantly sought out theories that I came across. Very, very brilliant. This again goes with the assumption that the Kapachatan is the one who starts the entire loop and the healer lady is the one who ends the loop. Let's assume that there are multiple loops, and in every loop the story is the same. 2 police officers come from outside to catch a criminal that's hiding inside the land of Churuli. We know this because Karyachan says that 2 police officers had come here to catch the criminal Vasu. Now, let's think of it this way. The very first loop, Kapachatan calls the police officers to say that there is a criminal in the land of Churuli. Let's call him Criminal X. 2 police officers, Vasu and Saubin, come to Churuli to catch Criminal X. Police officer Vasu looks into the house of the Kappachetan, and that's where everything begins. He starts doing crimes, and during the events, Saubin falls and hurts his back. To treat Saubin's back, they're taken to the healer at the very same place where Vasu ends up doing the child abuse. The ending point is near, and they get sucked into the moon, and the loop ends up resetting. Now in loop 2, Kappachetan again calls the policeman to say that we have a criminal Vasu in Churuli. Vasu becomes a criminal because of the crimes he's done in the previous loop, and he's retained in Churuli with a broken back while Saubin is let go. Now in loop 2, Saubin comes back as the police officer, and with him he brings George, who is Vinay fought. Both of them come to Churuli to find Vasu, the criminal that they are hunting for a while now. Now in this loop, Saubin ends up looking into the house of Kappachetan, and it all begins again. He starts doing crimes, during which George, that is Vinay fought, hurts his back in the forest and is taken to the healer. During the healing, Saubin abuses the kid, Vinay fought gets better, they end up finding Vasu, and then finally they are sucked into the moon where everything is reset again. You will again notice that it starts at the Kappachetan's place and ends with the healer. Since in this loop Saubin does the crimes, he becomes the criminal for the next loop, freeing Vasu from this and also Vinay fought out into the real world. Now comes loop 3. Same like the other 2 loops, Kappachetan again calls the police officer saying we have a criminal by the name Joy, who is Saubin of course. 2 police officers, Anthony and Shajivan, comes in to Churuli to catch Joy. This time, Shajivan is the one who sees the house. He gets intrigued by it. The series of crimes start happening. Chamban falls down, breaks his back, goes to the healer. While he's being healed, Shajivan ends up abusing the child. They end up meeting Joy, and finally everything resets as they're sucked into the moon. This time, Joy is freed. Shajivan becomes the criminal, and of course, in the next loop, we can expect that Shajivan is the criminal that they're hunting for. So of course, as the pattern goes in loop 4, the one that's going to come after this, Kappachetan will again call the police saying that we have the criminal Shajivan hiding here. Chamban Vinod with another police officer will come, but in this loop it will be Chamban who will be intrigued to do all the crimes that Vasu, Saubin and Shajivan had done, continuing the loop as it goes on. A small little interpretation that I had with this theory is, what if Churuli is a metaphor for jail? In jail, you don't really have a track of time. You don't know what's happening on the outside. You're in your own world, own secluded world, where you're not even sure of what's happening around you. You do your time there for the crimes that you have made. Similar to how all the crimes were made by all these people. Churuli was a free land to all of them, but they chose to be the bad person and did the crimes, and hence they were retained in the next loop, made to suffer, and once they were done, they were freed. This world that we live in is absolutely a free world, but that doesn't mean you can do anything. If you do, you end up paying for your time, which is exactly what Churuli is to me. So this is another small crazy theory that I had, but by itself, I think theory 4 is one of the most flawless theories that I've come across, and it's damn brilliant. Don't you agree? Now this is theory 5, which I must say was quite interesting to read about. This was a theory about the Jeep and also about the people of Churuli. Now during the story, we are of course introduced to a lot of men of the town Churuli. But the question is, what if all these people were once a police officer that came to find the criminal? And the criminal could be Joy or Martin or fugitive or criminal, however you want to call him, okay? If Martin is the superpower behind all of this, let's again assume that, his 2 helpers are the Kappachetan and the healer, okay? Everything happens the way we see in the movie, but what if every single person in that village was once a policeman? Like, what if they all came in pairs of 2, did whatever they had to do, and ended up getting sucked into the loop? Their memories completely erased, and they're put back into another loop as a villager this time. This is the same jeep they used to enter Churuli, and this is the same jeep that Chamban Vinod, Vinay Ford and Saubin sits when it's being sucked into the moon. So if you look very clearly, this is a very, very old jeep, and this jeep looks really similar to a police jeep. If people of Churuli are using it, then of course this jeep did come as a police jeep. And maybe they did get sucked into it, they have no memory, and now they're using that jeep again and again over many years, and hence it's old. What's interesting is we are told a little bit here and there about Karyachan's past, the guy who shoots his past, but not very, very clear past backgrounds. They must have all come to Churuli at different points of time to catch the criminal, but they must have never gotten out. And now probably in the next loop you'll see Chamban and Vinay being a part of the village instead of the hunters. They would forget their names, their past is erased, and now they're part of the people of Churuli. I also like the fact that in every theory that we talked about, the Kappacharan and the healer have a huge role to play. A man and a woman. Man and woman that starts and ends a life. And just like that, there are so many more theories to this movie. And if you closely notice, there are certain elements in these 5 theories that can be interlinked as well. There are also certain elements that people have picked out, like how Shajivan suddenly sees the healer's house when he gets slapped, or how Shajivan at the start gets a deja vu. So these are all tiny elements that can also be used for multiple other theories, Now, since we've come so far with theories, I have a question for you, the answer of which I would want you guys to comment below. Now, you remember how Anthony and Shajivan, when they come, Anthony kept talking about a police officer of theirs by the name Bashir. He refers to him as Bashir sir. We have no clear idea of how he is related to all of this, but it's a question that's lurking in my mind. Do you think this Bashir sir is connected to any of the theories that we just discussed, or do you think there's any hidden element about this Bashir sir character? Because his name comes up awfully a lot in this movie, and most of the names that actually have come up a lot in this movie can be used as a connection to some or the other theory from this story. So comment below and let me know. And it's because of all of this I genuinely feel LJP is a true genius at what he does. I mean, he made a movie. He simply made a movie, and look at us watching and rewatching the movie 1,000 times and figuring out 100 explanations for it. I think that's a true brilliance of a great filmmaker and a director. A huge round of applause to him, like really. So thank you for your time. I hope you liked this video. I did try my best in explaining the theories in the best way possible. Thank you so much once again. I'll see you guys next week with a new movie with lots of love. It's your storyteller. Bye.